Well, Universal did it. They made a movie where a bear does some booger sugar. Let's talk about it. You know, whenever I thought of that bit, I didn't think it'd be this messy to like clean up. But I now have flour everywhere in my room. But anyways, let's talk about Booger Sugar Bear. And if you've been following the channel for any amount of time, Booger Sugar is a term that I learned in high school, and I'm calling it Booger Sugar Bear because the other word, the C word, isn't really like viewer friendly, and I feel like the C word is just a word that'll get deemed as not being very family friendly and will make it very, very hard to build any type of audience or anything like that. So we're gonna be calling it Booger Sugar, and also it's just a fun thing to say. Try saying it, Booger Sugar. It's great. Anyways, Booger Sugar Bear, was it good? Was it bad? Let's talk about it, all right? So, quick plot synopsis. Drugs get dropped into a forest, a bear gets a hold of them, and a whole bunch of shenanigans ensue. That's it. You know the premise, you know the story. If you know the real life story, the bear didn't make it, all right? However, in the movie, there is so much going on besides just the story of the bear that I feel like it also works to the film's detriment, because this is only an hour and 35-minute movie, and I thought this was gonna be great. I thought we were gonna get into the story. The bear does the booger sugar, and we get all this action going on. But no, actually, most of this movie is stuff happening that has almost nothing to do with the actual bear or anything like that. There are probably about 7 different subplots that are happening here, and because the runtime is so short, the plot feels so dense and disconnected that even by the end, you're just like, oh, well, why? Why was there so much of here going? Like, why was there just so much going on here? Why couldn't we just have the story of the bear? That's how I felt, at least. I felt like there was just too much going on. The plot was too dense with not enough time to make everything really matter. The characters are too flat for me to care about their stories anyways. I was only there to see the Booger Sugar Bear, and I feel like that's what people are going to go into this expecting as well, is a very non-serious and very, very fun novelty film that you go see once with friends, and you don't really expect to enjoy it. You don't really expect to walk away thinking like, wow, that was great. You're probably gonna walk away thinking that was a movie, and that's it. Like, you get your tickets worth, you walk out, and you're like, that was a good hour and 30 minutes. If it were any longer, it would have been a complete waste of time. But it's not bad. It's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie, but it's okay. The characters here is what I want to touch on next, because the 2 weakest parts of this movie, I think, are the plot. The plot is rough, just because there's so much going on here. It feels like the plot here is just so dense with things that are going on, whether it be the main characters, the subplots, the bear itself. There's just too much going on here, not enough time to expand on it, and everything is just so shallow that you don't even care. Like, the characters are also all one-note characters. They have like 1 or 2 things that make them distinguishable from everybody else. That's it. There's a love subplot that comes in, like a love story subplot. Also kind of pointless because it doesn't really go anywhere. Yeah, and none of the characters are really that special to where I didn't even have, like, all the characters are so shallow I didn't even have a favorite. But those are just some of my raw feelings and thoughts and emotions. But what would I rate it? Well, I rate it best movie ever, with the caveat that you go see this with friends. If you're going by yourself, you're not gonna have like a great time. So either way, still a fun movie. It's a novelty film, and you're either gonna love or hate that fact. But that's my initial raw emotion review. They're all my thoughts and feelings that you can just chew on and munch on, digest, whatever. So if that's all you really came to see, was just like, should I go see this movie? Sure, yeah, you should go see it. Don't expect anything great, and take some friends to make it a little bit more fun. If you go see it by yourself, you might be disappointed because it's not a great film. However, if you went in expecting it to be a great film, that's your fault. Like, that's a you problem. That is my review of my feelings, emotions, this and that. If that's all you came here to see, I thank you for joining. And we're going to get into the numbers here for nerds to see just where this movie would land on my movie rating scale. So without further ado, numbers for nerds. I gave Cinemaniac a 7 out of 10 because the bear looks great, the CGI looks pretty well done, and everything's framed very, very well. I'd say there wasn't like a terrible moment that I saw on screen. However, there's also nothing breathtaking as well. Characters were a 5 because, like I said, these characters felt like they were just good enough to pass off for like a movie character, but they had no real depth. There was no one that I hated either. Like, there was no one here that I just absolutely bored or anything like that. They were still fun and enjoyable on screen. However, they had no depth for me to say, oh, I liked this one more than that one. They're just meat bags without a name. Conflict was a 7 out of 10. Everything here seemed pretty well done. All the conflict was enjoyable and fun to watch. The kills were pretty fun and pretty brutal as well, I gotta say. There was one conflict at the end of the movie that I just did not really care for, but just because it felt forced, and I was just like, okay, but what's even the point here? What's the point here? Like, this is kind of dumb. Dialogue was a 6 out of 10 because everything here was very, very average. The comedy is what carries this, okay? I might being a little lenient on the dialogue, I'll admit that, but the comedy was pretty superb. There were several moments where I was laughing, and I'm being a little lenient towards dialogue because if it can make me laugh, that brings up the enjoyment factor for me. So I gave the dialogue a 6 out of 10 instead of a 5 out of 10, which I think might be a more fair rating, but who cares? It's my review. All right, plot. I gave plot a 4 out of 10 because I thought it was pretty bad. Okay, it's a little bit less than average. Everything doesn't really make sense, and it's so bloated. It feels like there's so much going on, and I just kept thinking, okay, but why? Like, why are we adding this here? Do we need that here? Why is that here too? Just too much, not enough time. Suspense was a 7 out of 10. While it's not a 10 out of 10, there were moments where I thought like, oh, this is kind of slow, and this is mostly because of those subplots that I was mentioning, but it also kept my attention because it's a freaking booger sugar bear, bro. Like, it's just a bear that does hard drugs and is going on a rampage, okay? With other stuff around it that doesn't really matter. But whenever the bear is on screen, I'm glued to it. After averaging all those scores though, the total here is a 6 out of 10. So it's a slightly above average film. So that's going to be the full review of Booger Sugar Bear. Best movie ever, 6 out of 10. If you need this movie to go see this weekend, go and see it. Don't go alone. You will be disappointed. It's not a great movie, but it's a fun one. And it's a good novelty film. It's cool to see new and original IPs, even if they're silly and goofy like this. It's a cool time to be alive. But that being said, that is going to be a full review from me, the Critical Cinemaniac. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.